The flickering fluorescent light of the hospital room hummed, a cruel counterpoint to the flatline on the monitor. Dr. Elias Vance, a man whose life had been a relentless pursuit of empirical truth, felt a cold dread seep into his bones. His father, Professor Arthur Vance, a brilliant but controversial neuroscientist, was gone, not just gone from this world, but from the intricate web of Elias's carefully constructed reality. Arthur had dedicated his life to a theory so outlandish, so defiant of medical and philosophical consensus, that it had effectively ended his career, the hypothesis that physical death was merely a transition, an awakening from what he termed the great illusion, life itself. Elias had always dismissed it as the ramblings of a genius slowly succumbing to the ravages of age and intellectual isolation. He respected his father's mind, but this particular obsession felt like a betrayal of everything science stood for. Yet, as he stood over his father's still form, a strange sense of calm settled upon Arthur's face, a serenity Elias had never witnessed in life. It was almost as if he had found peace, or something more. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Elias inherited his father's cluttered old study, a labyrinth of dusty books, yellowed notes, and obsolete scientific equipment. Among the chaos, he found a locked, unmarked wooden box. Inside, carefully preserved, was a leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with Arthur's intricate handwriting, detailing his decades-long research, not into death itself, but into the nature of consciousness and perception. Arthur believed that our reality, our waking life, shared striking parallels with lucid dreaming. The vividness, the emotional intensity, the sense of self, all present in both states. But what if one was merely a deeper level of the other? The journal spoke of ancient philosophies, quantum mechanics, and never-before-seen brain imaging data. Arthur had developed a revolutionary neuroscanner, an invention he kept secret, designed not to map brain activity in the traditional sense, but to detect subtle quantum fluctuations at the moment of perceived conscious transition, sleep, anesthesia, even near-death experiences. Elias, initially skeptical, felt a grudging admiration for the sheer audacity of his father's work. It was mad, yes, but meticulously documented madness. One entry, dated just months before Arthur's passing, caught Elias's attention. It detailed a series of experiments on himself. Arthur had been using the scanner during deep meditation, attempting to induce a state he called pre-awakening. He described vivid, fleeting sensations of another place, fragments of memories that didn't belong to his waking life. He wrote of a pervasive sense of déjà vu that felt more like recognition. He was trying to catch a glimpse of the other side while still tethered to this one. Elias felt a growing unease. What if his father wasn't insane? What if he was onto something profoundly unsettling? The medical community had dismissed Arthur's work as pseudoscience, attributing his increasingly erratic behavior to early-onset dementia. Elias had, too, but the meticulous notes, the precise data points, painted a picture of a man utterly dedicated, not to delusion, but to discovery. He found the prototype neuroscanner tucked away in a hidden compartment beneath the study floorboards. It was a bulky, complex contraption, a fusion of old-world electronics and advanced quantum sensors. A single, ominous warning was scrawled on a sticky note attached to its main console: "Do not activate without full understanding. The threshold is fragile." Elias, despite his scientific rigor, felt an irresistible pull. His father's death had left a void, a question mark hovering over everything. He needed to know. He spent weeks poring over Arthur's schematics, reverse engineering the scanner, calibrating its delicate quantum sensors. He ignored the professional obligations piling up, the calls from concerned colleagues. His father's obsession had become his own. He set up the scanner in the lab, a makeshift replica of Arthur's last experiments. He attached the electrodes, carefully positioned the quantum emitters around his head. He initiated the sequence, feeling a surge of trepidation mixed with exhilarating curiosity. The machine whirred to life, a low thrum filling the silent room. He lay back, closing his eyes, focusing on his breath, trying to clear his mind as his father had described. At first, nothing, just the rhythmic hum of the machine, the distant throb of his own heartbeat. Then, a subtle shift, a tingling sensation, a warmth spreading from his core. Colors began to bloom behind his eyelids, shifting and morphing into impossible geometries. Sounds, faint and melodic, seemed to echo from an infinite distance. He felt a sense of expansion, as if his consciousness was unfurling, stretching beyond the confines of his physical body. Then came the memories, not his memories, but other memories. Fleeting images of bustling marketplaces in ancient cities, of flying through alien skies, of whispering secrets to beings with many eyes. He saw himself, but not this self. He was different, yet fundamentally the same. A sense of overwhelming familiarity washed over him, like remembering a forgotten dream, or a life he had lived before. This wasn't a hallucination. It was too coherent, too vivid, too real. He was experiencing pre-awakening. He was on the threshold. Suddenly, a blinding flash of white light, a sound like 1,000 bells chiming in perfect harmony, and then, silence, a profound, absolute silence, unlike anything he had ever known. He felt weightless, unbound. He opened his eyes, expecting to see the sterile ceiling of his lab. Instead, he was standing in a vast, luminous chamber, bathed in an impossibly vibrant light. The air was thick with a sweet, floral scent he couldn't identify. Before him stood a figure, tall and elegant, with eyes that held the wisdom of countless eons. The figure smiled, a smile of profound warmth and recognition. "Welcome back, Elias," the figure said, its voice resonating not through his ears, but directly into his consciousness. "We were wondering when you'd finally wake up from that dream." Elias looked down at his hands. They were translucent, shimmering with an inner light. He looked around the chamber, seeing other figures, equally luminous, moving with serene grace. He felt a memory stir, a memory not of his life, but of this life, a life he had somehow forgotten, obscured by the vividness of the dream he had just left. "The great illusion," he whispered, finally understanding his father's words. The figure approached, its gaze gentle. "Indeed, a necessary experience for growth, a deeply immersive simulation designed to teach, to challenge, to make you appreciate the true nature of reality when you finally return." Elias's mind raced, connecting every fragmented memory, every fleeting sensation from his pre-awakening. He remembered Arthur's quiet serenity in death. It wasn't peace, it was recognition. Arthur hadn't died, he had simply woken up. "My father," Elias stammered, his voice filled with a sudden, overwhelming emotion. "Arthur, is he?" The figure smiled. "He returned home long ago, Elias. He was one of our finest dreamers. He almost broke through the illusion several times. Even while still immersed, he always knew, deep down, what awaited him." Elias finally understood. His entire life, his scientific pursuit, his grief for his father, all of it had been part of an elaborate, hyper-realistic dream. The real reality was here, in this luminous chamber, among these beings of pure light and consciousness. Death wasn't an end, it was the alarm clock, signaling the conclusion of one profound experience and the beginning of another. His father hadn't left him, he had merely woken up first, patiently waiting for Elias to follow. And the most shocking realization of all, he himself had once been one of the figures in this luminous chamber, before willingly entering the great illusion to live a human life, to learn, to grow, and to eventually awaken, just as his father had. The true meaning of "no two snowflakes are identical" suddenly resonated with a deeper, terrifyingly beautiful truth in this new reality. Every individual dream was unique, an unrepeatable journey back to self.